Hello. Today I will be once more featuring the French Tier 6 premium cruiser, the Grasse. Now, I did feature this in the past, in the preview version, but one of my subs, 2for1, was kind enough to give me the new version of this ship as a gift as soon as it was released on EU. So I've had some time to get used to this ship and can give my recommendations based on that. Now, first of all, the Grasse, well, if you missed my first one, I'll go over the basics of the ship. The concealment on the ship is okay. It's 11.4 with concealment expert and the camo, which is the same as the Cleveland and the same as the La Galissonière, which is the silver equivalent of this premium ship. It's okay, it's not anything special. I mean, Nern, Budionni, Duca, Leander, pretty much all the usual competitors will still beat it. The speed is 33.5, which is actually very good. If you put a speed flag on top, you reach 35.2%, which is a very strong base considering you already have the great French speed boost, which increases it even further. Worth noting here, by the way, this Grasse is about to get dropped. You can see the carrier is going for him, so I popped my defensive AA, and, well, I might as well skip. I'll briefly cover the anti-air here. The anti-air on the mid and the short range is pretty much terrible. The long range AA is, however, pretty good. But the important thing here is that you can easily reach 6 kilometers of AA range just by slotting the AA range module, which you probably slot anyway. You saw I didn't really shoot down many planes, I only shot down 2 planes, but I spread out the torps for the Grasse and I spread out the bombs, so he actually took almost no damage at all. So having this 6 km AA range is very useful for protecting yourself as well as your teammates, as I pretty much saved that guy's ass. Anyway, moving on back to the speed. As I said, 35.2, and with the great speed boost you can get even faster. I think you can approach like 40 knots, which is pretty damn good. It has a 7-second rudder shift and a 690 meter turning circle, so it handles a bit worse than the La Galissonière, which is the silver equivalent, but it's not really a disaster. I mean, well, Cleveland handles a bit better, but once again the differences are very small. We're talking about a second of rudder shift and a cup, like 20-30 meters of rudder or turning time. The armor is very squishy. Well, pretty much all the tier 6 cruisers have very squishy armor. In general, you're better off not getting hit at all than attempting to do any sort of tanking. It does have spaced armor, and it isn't a floating citadel like, for example, the Nürnberg, but still, it's squishy armor we're talking about. The HP pool is 31.2, which is pretty decent. I mean, it's not the insane Cleveland's 35.2k, but it's not Nürnberg's abysmal 27k either, so kinda in the middle of the pack. The AA values I did talk upon just now, you saw it in action as well. The mid-range and short-range AA is abysmal, as mentioned, but long range is okay, but more importantly, the panic radius is pretty damn good, which is why I especially like running defensive AA on this. As well, of course, if you do get focused by a carrier, it's nice at least having it to defend not just allies, but yourself as well. The torps are okay. Mostly I use them, honestly, to gauge my enemy's speed. To see, you can use the white direction to see how fast the enemy is going. But the torps are okay. You have 3 on each side. They have 9 km range, which is pretty damn good, so you can kind of spam them whenever you feel like it. Well, not whenever you feel like it, but you can use them quite often and hope for some random hits. They do 14.8 k damage each, so they're not anything groundbreaking, but if you're forced to YOLO someone, they can save your butt. So, a nice addition. And finally, of course, the guns. These guns are great. In fact, I really love these guns. It's absolutely one of the strengths. Just like the La Galissonière, the Grasse has a 15-second turret traverse. You might notice no matter how much I'm turning here, my turrets will always stay on target, and unless of course I turn to the point where the turrets cannot even physically turn. In fact, you will never be able to turn faster than your turrets can keep up, because 15 seconds turret traverse is amazing. 15-second turret traverse is good for a DD, let alone a cruiser. And this is of course the same on both this one and the La Galissonière as well. so they both share this trait of having extremely responsive turrets. Now, it has 16.2 km range, 300 more than Galissonier's 15.9, and well, 16.2 is great for a T6 cruiser. I mean, it doesn't quite match up to Budioni's insane 16.6 km range, but it's still very, very good. Fire chance is 12%, which is once again same as La Galissonier's, and it feels pretty damn good. In general, I mean, the shell velocity is also very good. You can see how easily I am landing shells even at max ranges, or the max range that I am at right now. And the shell velocity 870 meters per second. Once again, not the railguns of the Budioni, which reaches something like 950 meters per second, but it doesn't feel as slow and awkward as Cleveland shells either. So it kind of sits right between them, pretty much flat in the middle in terms of shell velocity. The AP is also very good. The AP, I mean, if anyone gives you broadside, especially close range, you are able to punish them extremely heavily. And of course, since these guns are 152mm guns, much like many of the cruisers at this tier, I think the only exception is like the Leander, the Ioba that has 203mm. In general, most guns tend to hover at this tier, around 150 and 155. This of course means that this ship benefits greatly from IFHE, since it pushes you past certain thresholds of armor, especially the very important 32mm threshold. So that means, of course, I am running IFHE in this commentary, and it means more solid damage in general. Now, in the past, I said, well, in my past commentary, the thing that annoyed me the most about the Grasse was I wasn't too annoyed about it having slightly more HP and slightly more speed than the Galissonier, because, well, the ship is a bit bigger than the La Galissonier, so you're not really gaining that much survivability because you have to give some of it up because your size is so much larger. So I thought that was a pretty okay trade-off. Now, what really annoyed me was that the Grasse had a 7.5 second gun reload, whereas the Galissonier had a 10-second reload. That was a 2.5 second gap, which I thought was a bit too big of a gap. It felt like straight up premium pay to win at in that sense. However, Wargaming, well, I'd like to say they listened, because not only did they buff the Galissonier's reload from 10 seconds to 9 seconds, so a 10% buff, they also nerfed the Grasse's reload from 7.5 to 8.1. So this gap that used to be 2.5 seconds is now actually 0.9, so we are 8.1 versus 9 seconds. So instead of this massive gap, the gap is actually not really that big of a deal anymore. It's not that large of a gap, and it no longer feels like a straight up vastly superior premium ship. It just feels like, well, a good premium ship at its tier, and which can probably be quite easily matched by the silver ship in terms of performance. So honestly, I really love this change, and I feel a lot more comfortable recommending this ship. I did recommend it last time I played it because I felt it was so strong, but it felt, you know, a bit dirty with how much stronger it was. So props to them for making this change, because, well, now it feels a lot nicer to recommend. The situation here in the game, though, is a bit awkward at this point. I'm trying to tell my team to push. I'm trying to get up my battleships who are all full HP. I'm trying to get them to push in and save our base, because, well, there's a Bayern smoked up in there. I can't push into this, it's impossible. A smoked up Bayern means if I show myself, I can easily get deleted, especially those 380mm guns have no issues overmatching my armor. And I'm already down to half HP, you see 14.7k health. So I need my battleships to push. We have a Grasse now and Nagato, both which could easily push in and make all the difference. You see us cruisers, me and Pensacola and Ioba, we're all kind of hovering as close as we dare to go. But we can't go any closer than this because, well, we risk getting wrecked here. And we need our battleships to man up and do something. the Bayern does, the smoke fades, or he reverses out of the smoke. I think the smoke actually faded, which is great for us because now we're finally able to shoot this Bayern, which is the massive threat. You see I positioned behind one of the islands. This is something I highly recommend in all cruisers, of course, but especially low tier ones that are especially squishy, and in these lower tier maps where you can use a lot of terrain, using islands like this to your advantage is of course fantastic. My tier 7 battleships are still playing extremely scared. In fact, I have a full HP Grasse now and a full HP Nagato, both which are absolutely scared out of their minds to push into this cap, which is still ticking over. But with the Bayern dead, I can finally now go in. But worth noting is that the New Mexico, Ekairim, I actually want to highlight this, he's the one who's going straight in ham. Even with the carrier going for him, before being focused by the entire all the enemy ships in the cap, with the carrier focusing, he's the guy who's going in and delaying this cap. And I actually did compliment them. For those that know, I rarely compliment players. My stream considers it like worth 50 karma, but I very rarely do it. But he's one of the players I did compliment, because while the Nagata and Grasse now hid in the back and was afraid, this lower tier battleship at tier 6 just manned up, charged in, and he even got the kill on the Mutsuki. So special props to him for that. It's nice to see that he goes down, but I mean, he was more valuable than those two tier 7 battleships on our team anyway. At this point though, we've saved our cap, but it's still a 5 or 6 versus 6, and at this point I realize I'm being targeted by 2 people and I want to turn away. Sadly the Pensacola is kinda in my way. Algeri is giving broadside, so I switch to AP to see if I can harass him. But in general I'm just turning away because there's a Colorado in front of me and a Grasse now on my left, and I don't want to be giving broadside. And I just barely dodged the shells that could easily wreck me. Worth noting here, at lower tiers, this French spaced armor is surprisingly useful. It seems to prevent me from getting any citadels with these lower tier calibers. In fact, I'm usually better off using HE. Sorry, I was reading the chat what this Ikarian guy was saying. Anyway, usually you're better off actually firing that IFHE HE against the French cruisers than you are at firing AP, even when they give broadside. Because unless you're very close, you don't have the penetrative power of punching through both the broadside armor and the additional citadel armor. As I said, they have spaced armor, so you tend to do these penetrations that don't really deal too much damage at all, and going full HE for the consistent damage just seems more useful. Angling in towards the Grasse now, he instantly damage confined fire because he's so low HP. We're down to a 5 versus 5 at this point, but at these ranges I can pretty consistently land the shells on him, and honestly I either need to hit his superstructure for some additional damage or just need to get a fire going. Either one will work. And I do finish him off. They still have a pretty damn healthy Colorado though, and they still have a shores in front of me as well. The issue, well, our Grasse now is on J4, which is, well, about as far away from the action as you possibly could be, which is less optimal, and our Nagato has already turned away to flee. So me and basically the Aoba are the only 2 targets for these battleships at this moment, and then you can see priority target is highlighting me that 2 people are targeting me, which is probably the shores and this guy. However, the maneuverability is pretty damn good. I think he shot the Aoba instead, since the Aoba is giving broadside whereas I'm angling. But Colorado, one of the weaknesses of course of the Colorado and the New Mexico is not just the slow size, but the very large superstructure, which means you can do a lot of HE and, well, even AP damage to them. Switching to AP for the shores, but he's already turning away, so the damage ends up being pretty damn underwhelming. I do have 2 fires sticking on the Colorado in the meantime, so shooting the shores isn't too bad of an idea, since the Colorado is continually ticking away. I maintain my angle. Note that the firing angles on this ship are better when kiting away than when chasing someone, so in general you're able to angle much more sharply when you sail away from your target. Switching to the Colorado, who does burn to death. And, well, my armor is easily able to tank this Shore's AP at the angle I was at. Even though he's got the Soviet Stalinium guns, with the angle I'm at, he's too far away to be able to pen. I think, yes, the Grasse now does snipe the Shores, and at this point it's pretty obvious we're gonna turn this game into our victory. And New Mexico goes, I've heard that name before. I cannot remember from where. Well, I'm pretty sure someone will point that out to him at some point. Anyway, at this point though, it's 3 minutes left, but I have 4 kills, and I kind of want to get my Kraken. And here we see the benefits of the speed. Oh, I'm looking back at my 2 tier 7 battleships, the Nagata and the Grasse now. Both of them are still full HP. Well, you know how I feel about battleships that are full HP at the end of a game. And well, those guys certainly kind of let the team down in that sense. Anyway, talking about the speed, you notice that I was doing 40 knots when sailing in a straight line. And the increased speed boost and in general increased speed of this one really shows itself towards the end, or when you're trying to hunt or chase someone down. Any other cruiser would struggle to do it as quickly as this one does, but I want to hunt the carrier as fast as possible. Going for the enemy cap is a good idea because it kind of forces him to send planes my way, and I want to know from where he's sending the planes, so I know where to chase at. And yeah, my speed 39.8, 0.9 and 40 knots, which is the maximum speed you can... Oh no, never mind, I'm speaking out of my ass. 40.2 is apparently the maximum speed you can achieve. So very, very fast if you run both the boost and the flag. And of course that makes it a lot easier to reposition in the ship. It also makes it a lot easier to deal with awkward spawns or just moving somewhere to defend the base or chase or whatever. So it is a special feature that I feel should be highlighted, because I don't think any other tier 6 cruiser can get even close to this speed. Probably the closest will be the Budionni, which does 35. Actually, never mind, the Duca is probably the closest. The Duca is incredibly fast as well. So, but it of course doesn't quite have the firepower. It's more of an anti-cruiser type of ship and plays very differently. But worth noting, the Duca as a premium is also very fast. And the Budionni does, I think, 35 knots without any sort of boost, so that one is also extremely quick. I do catch up to the Hiryu, who is trying to flee, but once again, this ship is so fast that he doesn't have any chance. And the 12%, well, in this case 11% fire chance, since I'm running IFHE, which reduces it by 3, but I am also running Demo Expert, which increases it by 2 to reduce the impact IFHE has on my fire chance. So, not surprisingly, get a fire, he repairs, get a second fire, and I'm just raining down HE on him as I chase him down. We got 43 seconds left, but I should easily be able to finish off this kill before he's able to completely flee from me. I don't think IFHE even matters against, I don't think he has enough armor regardless, but of course you can see the consistent DPM that you can put out. And in fact, shooting this Hiryu gave me both Confederate and High Caliber, 2 of the achievements I was kind of missing here. And if I'm able to secure this kill, the Ioba is trying to shoot him. Luckily he's in line of sight from the battleships, and my fire does kill him off. And with 7 seconds left, I get my Kraken unleashed, which is very satisfying. The Duca is hiding somewhere, not much to be done about him, and the game finally ends. Score-wise, well, 550k credits, which is pretty damn good, but it is a premium of course, so it's here to make credits. A huge chunk of XP, because I'm running some XP flags that boost it, as well as the Victory Day camo, and a nice chunk of free XP as well. 134k damage, not really my best Grasse damage, but this game kind of showed off all the different aspects of the ship, I felt. Both the validity of the speed, the angles, both the tankiness and the lack of tankiness at times. Overall, only 3 planes shot down, and I think I only used defensive AA once, but the time I did use it, it did save a DD, so very useful. Team score 2.3k base XP, which is pretty nice, because of course the matchmaking was tier 7s mostly. In fact, I think the majority here were tier 7s with some tier 6s and some tier 5s. So pretty usual matchmaking that you tend to face at tier 6. The Grasse does not have any issues punching up higher tiers because once again you got 16.2 km range and a lot of speed, which makes it a lot easier to deal with higher tier matchmaking. Amusingly, the Gneisenau and Nagata that survived both finished below the New Mexico that went in and helped save our base, and I thought that was kind of a poetic justice in that sense. Detailed report wise, 1.1 million potential damage, not too much. 39k spotting damage, which is pretty okay considering there was a carrier in the game, but not surprisingly, majority of the damage comes from the IFHE HE spam. Some AP damage, but not really. You can get a lot more AP damage than this, but I didn't really have any chances to use it in this game. And finally, credits and XP. Because of all the flags I used, I of course made 43,000 Captain XP in this game, which is very nice. But the credits I made was actually without any sort of modifier besides premium. So 548k credits with just running premium, and this ship is of course very, very nice indeed. And I did unlock a Captain perk, which is pretty nice. Anyway, I'll show off what the ship looks like without this Victory Day camo that I'm running, as well as what my recommended build for the ship is currently. Right, well, starting off, you can see the very good looking default camo of this ship. Honestly, I almost feel guilty putting on the Victory Day camo, which I use for the better stats, or well, better XP bonuses, because the default camo or the premium camo on this the Grasse is, in my opinion, one of the best looking premium camos in the game. It just looks fantastic. Anyway, moving on, module wise, not really much to talk about since it is a premium. Consumable wise, I of course always recommend the premium repair, and then if you can afford it, go premium engine boost, premium defensive AA, and premium fighter planes. This is of course in order. So the less money you have and the less you're willing to spend on consumables, just go in that order depending on it. Upgrade wise, main armaments mod 1 and AA guns range. No other mod is really worth using here. And of course, as I said, the AAs, you can get that nice 6 km range on these long guns, which means your panic radius is very useful, as you saw when I saved the Grasse. And here, either run I think steering gears, because this is a French cruiser and French cruisers tend to lose rudder quite a lot, or if you have a speed boost modification, then you run that one of course, since the French ships benefit so greatly since they already have a 3-minute speed boost, and this one makes it a 4.5-minute one. And finally, rudder shift. It's one of the things that it trades off and kind of loses on to some of the other cruisers, so you want to buff it as much as possible. Captain perks wise, priority number 1 is of course priority target, which I recommend for pretty much all cruisers ever. Since you have such great turret traverse, you really don't need expert marksman at all and can go straight for adrenaline rush, followed by improved fire chance and concealment expert. Once you have this basic 10-point captain, then you want to save up straight and go for IFHE with your 14-point captain, because as I mentioned, 152mm guns benefit greatly from this. Once you have IFHE, well, now you have some options. I put my 15th point into having an additional catapult plane, since this is so annoying for enemy DDs and pretty much enemy carriers, everything. Having 2 of these that are up for 6 minutes and just annoying the hell out of everyone is hilarious and very frustrating for the enemy. So ultimately though, if I do get more perks, I'd probably go for vigilance at some point, because well, you don't really have any sort of early warning torpedo system. Otherwise, manual AA might be an option, considering all your AAs on your long guns, but honestly, this is never going to be a particularly AA heavy ship, no matter how many points you invest into that, so it might be a bit of a waste. But that's something I'll see in the future. For now though, this is my the Grasse build with the points that I have, and I hope you guys enjoyed this commentary. And as I mentioned, I quite like this ship, and now with the recent buffs to the La Galissiniere reload and the nerfs to the Grasse reload, I feel a lot more comfortable recommending it as well. Anyway, that was all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed it.